I'd like to thank Paul General, Her Honor, and the Walrus for hosting us tonight. And I'd like to thank our judges, Edward and Pia, along with all of you, our guests, for your curiosity and openness to new ideas. Imagine you're not sitting here. You just pulled off the highway into one of those charming diners, and the waiter sets down in front of you the juiciest, most mouth-watering hamburger you've ever seen. It looks so good, you take a picture with it, you take a selfie, and you post both on Instagram. You hold it up in front of your drooling mouth, and you feel its weight. Wait, what does this have to do with environmental stewardship? Well, from what we're taught, not much, but in reality, a lot. My generation of Ontarians talks about environmental stewardship in terms of carbon-intensive energy production, in terms of transport, pristine lakes, and recycling. But that's a narrow lens. Environmental stewardship needs to be thorough and comprehensive. It needs to encourage clean water, air, and soil. It needs to encourage green and sustainable energy production and use, and also a healthy and robust biodiversity. In reality, food and agriculture are major contributors to environmental damage. Meat production, to put that tasty burger on your plate, is especially bad. When we think of climate change, we think of greenhouse gas emissions. And greenhouse gas emissions from cows, pigs, and other livestock are huge. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, livestock accounted for almost 15% of global human-caused greenhouse gas emissions in 2005. Emissions have increased in the last 10 years and are projected to continue increasing into 2050. And climate change is not the only environmental problem. What about clean water? Academic research in the Netherlands showed that 1/3 of global freshwater usage relates to animal products. Animal products have a much higher water footprint than crop products, which means that a dinner of beef takes a lot more water than a dinner of beans. Meat production processes also dirty a lot of water through agricultural waste and runoff. Greenhouse gas emissions, climate change, water. Well, what about our land, our beautiful forests, and the rich biodiversity of plants and animals living within them? Right now, according to the United Nations, we use around 1/3 of the land on Earth to produce meat and animal products. This includes the grazing of animals, and it includes the areas needed to grow their feed. According to the David Suzuki Foundation, to make 1 kilogram of beef, a cow has to eat 5 to 7 kilograms of grain, which takes up a lot of space and could have fed a lot more humans than that meat. If we had these sort of shifts, we wouldn't ever have had to, and wouldn't need to now, cut down vast forests from the Amazon to the boreal to the mixed and deciduous forests native to where we are right here. So livestock production is bad for the environment in a lot of ways. But what is Ontario doing about it? My research took me to the best management practices section of the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs website. And what I found there was honestly disappointing. Our water management strategy was from the year that I was born, which makes it 24 years old. Our farm forestry and habitat management strategy was older than I am, and our greenhouse gas reduction and livestock production strategy was over 10 years old. Now, by no means do I not think there's wisdom in older ideas, but why hadn't we incorporated that wisdom into the explosion of environmental knowledge that has come with the 21st century? Why has Ontario's innovation and creativity fallen short? Well, now is a time for change. Let's innovate and let's capitalize on an emerging opportunity for Ontario and for the world. I'm not talking about everyone becoming vegan. I'm talking about Ontario becoming the leader in what I'm calling EcoMeat. Known as in vitro, manufactured, or lab meat, we can produce meat by taking small samples of muscle or stem cells from animals. The cells then divide and grow in a nutrient-rich culture in a laboratory, and they grow in an environment that's reflecting natural environments within an animal. You can grow enough cells to create an entire hamburger, or in theory, any type of meat that you like. You can custom tailor the meat for specific fat and protein contents, and there's no need for antibiotics or unnatural growth hormones because it's all done in the safety of a clean laboratory. EcoMeat really is eco too. Research in the Netherlands showed major reductions in environmental impact when compared to conventional beef. Let's start with greenhouse gas emissions, which we know directly contribute to climate change. Can everyone in the audience applaud, please, right now? Very loud. Now, could we just have our other lovely finalists applaud, please? That first applaud represented the greenhouse gas emissions going into the atmosphere from conventional beef production. The second applause from just these people in the front row were the greenhouse gas emissions from EcoMeat, only 4% of what conventional beef produces. What effect would this have if Canadians ate EcoMeat instead of beef for one entire year? Well, I crunched the numbers and I compared it with data from our federal government. And I found that it would be like taking 4 out of every 10 personal vehicles off the road in Canada for an entire year. Or it would be like shutting down almost half of the tar sands for an entire year. Or, depending on the type of tree you're planting, it would be like putting in roughly 1 to 2 trees per human being on this entire planet and letting those billions and billions of trees live and capture carbon for an entire year. If these positive effects on greenhouse gas emissions and climate change aren't enough, what about water? EcoMeat uses only 15% of the water that conventional beef requires. A standard fast food quarter-pounder beef patty burger uses almost 2,000 liters of water, which is about 12 bathtubs full, so you can get an idea. EcoMeat burgers would only use 2 bathtubs full for the same size. Less water used and less water dirtied from agricultural waste, runoff, and pesticides. Now, what about our land? Well, imagine that I'm a cow. Right now, I need this whole stage to feed me. As EcoMeat, I could just use the space of this podium, only 1% of the land use required when compared to conventional beef. With a conservative estimate, shifting Ontario alone from beef production to EcoMeat, we would have at least 2 more Algonquin parks in our province. Environmentally, this is all pretty awesome. So how can Ontario take advantage of this opportunity and become the global leader of EcoMeat? Well, first we should fund research and development. EcoMeat is real. People have already eaten this, and we expect that it will be market ready within 5 to 10 years. Ontario can be the place that's leading that push and that benefits most from it. Second, we can shift subsidies. The first EcoMeat burger was hundreds of thousands of dollars, but now leaders in the field have it down to about $11 per burger, which seems really expensive. But remember, beef is that expensive too, and that's not even counting the negative externalities. OECD countries subsidized beef and veal $18 billion in 2012. Shifting those subsidies to EcoMeat would create comparable prices and have an incredibly lower cost on our planet. Finally, Ontario can create a positive brand around EcoMeat, highlighting its positive impacts on environmental stewardship, cutting greenhouse gas emissions, promoting clean water, air, and soil, sustainably using energy, and building a healthy and robust biodiversity. There are 250 million livestock animals in Ontario right now. They, their children, and future generations of Ontarian humans will thank us for changing the way that we eat meat. Let's invest in a plan that keeps Ontario as ours to discover. Let's create a greener future for Ontario together.